kuruga kuno mu Diaspora hano mu TGM Radio. Nitubatangira muno kuhuliriza iraka lya Bunyoro kuruga kuno mu Diaspora hano mu TGM Radio.
Easy Sundays, all day Sunday on TGM Radio UK. Be sure to download the app from all app stores.
Nitubatangira muno kuhuliriza iraka lya Bunyoro kuruga kuno mu Diaspora hano mu
Izepyo musomesa komba again omubanda Omukama marumbire. Izepyo musomesa komba again a headline entertainment in this. Izepyo musomesa marumbire omubanda Omukama marumbire. Diaspora my joyous abanyoro nyataitu tubeno kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo mutima kwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro weno kwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo mutima kwa Bunyoro kukurumirwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro anga kutero muranga kwa Bunyoro n'abanyoro abali mu Bunyoro omanyire ihanga ruganda bakwataniza bange tubekimu kobe muganda mucholi mururu murugwara kimu oli mu Bunyoro wala la 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 bantu bange nyowentiniremu abanyoro nyakaituntiniremu wala la 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 kine kiroto kyalero niniremu wala la 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 bantu bange mumpa matwinywe wala la 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 ali hativi amaiso harutimbe ate visipuro kwa tengoma izepyo musomesa leka nsomese ate visipuro konko nebidongo izepi somesa bantu bange tubeno kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo mutima kwa Bunyoro weno kwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo mutima kwa Bunyoro kukurumirwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro Omukama Kabaleega ndumbirege muyitumbirya lero ntinirege akugamba halali tasemereirwe abanyore bya Bunyoro tubinagirize wala la 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 bambi tugonze hangalya Bunyoro tugaruke tukolere munuka Bunyoro musike ni mugaruro waitu munuka tugaika haze hangalya Bunyoro leka bana baitu batali baseka bakabaka kuzabanyu bakabantaha wala la 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 ituka iwe nyenga hano kugenda baitu kandi Bunyoro likirekaho n'omwana wawe alikisanga wichukuruko alikisanga balereka tube nakulo mutima okwa Kabaleega isenkuru itwe Omukama Kabaleega gambire omukiroto nyewentinirege agambire tubeno kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo mutima kwa Bunyoro weno kwa Bunyoro mutima kwa Bunyoro wala la la lo
Hello, mwebale muno. Hello, mwebale muno kutuninga ini. Hello. Mwebale, sorry about that. Mwebale muno kutuninga ini lino lya lya Bunyoro Diaspora, the voice of Bunyoro in the diaspora, na kazinako aka ize ekiroto ekikuruga Omukama Kabaleega. Ize webale muno kutera akazina karungi ako mali kasemereire muno habwa series zaite ezitugenda kora ezitukora today ez'Omukama Kabaleega Cwa 2. Kandi mazire kubatangira nywena na kazina kakarungi ninyenda kubajukisa mukake nti eno show egenda kuba omurunyoro English, and in Runyoro the Runyoro, the language that is spoken by people from Bunyoro, and Bunyoro is found in the western part of Uganda. No kanaka jukizako, that reminder, I would want to say that today we are continuing with the series of Omukama Kabaleega Cwa 2, and this is going to be the part 2 of this show. Kandi genda kubani part no series zinu nizituikibwaho Omutalindwa w'olukurato lwa Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, omukulu Akiiki ningenda kumwerokaminga mukake tutakabalize anything. I just want to send my sympathy to the people of Bulisa of what has just happened, that happened today or yesterday after the bursting of Lake Albert. Nituenda itwe hano aba voice of Bunyoro in the diaspora nitubaganyira muno ntusaba Mukama atubarabyemu abokuba when Bulisa is affected, the whole of Bunyoro is affected. Na habwekyo ninyenda kuterera omuranga abanyoro n'abanyoro kati n'aba friends of Bunyoro across the world. Please do send in support and your donations to the people of Bulisa. Itwena tukwatinane hamu habwokuba kine kibahikiroho naitwe kikutuhikaho kandi kituhikiroho itwe nk'abantu ba Bunyoro. Ogwo nakarangako ninyenda kusabira abantu ba Bulisa Mukama ayongere kubarabyamu kandi nokuba twena tukwataniza hamu nitubayamba. With that little announcement that I've just made, please do feel free to donate. Contact the people of Bulisa in any way you can. I want to introduce or welcome Speaker waitu w'olukurato lwa Bunyoro Omutalindwa Akiiki. Akiiki Omutalindwa
atemu webale muno
ego webale muno kwikiriza kuija kuba hamna itu ya programu eno kandi n'okuteekamu ekitinisa waikirizaga buli mwezi waikiriza buli hanyuma at the end of each month to come and give us this series of Omukama Kabaleega. Otaka ibalize ibara lyawo bakwega kubaza kuramukya abantu ninyenda obehe obuntu buke obwokugambira abantu ba Bulisa na itwena abanyoro ekitukiro amahano agatugwiroho kiro kino.
webale munatenyi kunyanjura abawuliriza bayitunga kumazire kuhura ninyonka bulijjo aiza Kalembe biro maisa Akiiki Omutalindwa w'olukurato lw'Omukama bwa Bunyoro Kitara. In brief, I'm Isaac Kalembe, the Speaker of the Parliament of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. I'd like to start by extending our sympathy to the people of Bulisa district, one of the 8 districts in the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, who have been affected by the flooding of Lake Albert, or which is locally known as Lake Mwitanzige. As you might be aware, for the last 2 months, water has been water from Lake Albert has mysteriously flooded the area, especially around the fishing villages of Bulisa, Karakaba, Kisyabi, all in Bulisa district. Accordingly, it has affected about 100,000 people in our estimation. And as a kingdom, we have taken up this issue seriously. Our Prime Minister led a delegation recently, I think 3 weeks ago, whereby he went for an on-spot inspection of the affected areas. Indeed, people have been displaced by water. They are now accommodated basically in schools, which, as you are aware, schools in Uganda have not been operating because of the COVID-19 lockdown. But the situation is dire and increasingly worrying. Some of the area of the services that have been affected include health. Some of the health centers in the area have been flooded and they have been affected. Toilets have also been affected, and this has affected the health of the people. Provision of safe water is a big challenge because people here depend mainly from getting water from the lake, but now with the continued flooding, encroachment of the water from land, it has become increasingly difficult for people to get access to safe drinking water, and the water they are using is contaminated with waterborne diseases. So there is a fear that an epidemic might break out soon. In addition, the water is infested by crocodiles, you might be aware, and the other waterborne creatures, but especially the crocodile, which threaten the lives of many people. And indeed, a number of people have already lost their lives to crocodiles and the drowning. So we call upon the people, well-wishers, Bunyoro and the diaspora, and everyone who can lend a hand to come to our assistance. We have already mobilized stakeholders, including the central government. The office of the Prime Minister, indeed, has already visited the place and is putting measures in place to ensure that the lives of the people of Bunyoro in the Bulisa district are protected.
Okay.
So, but this is not something new. Lake Albert, in 1961-62, Lake Albert again flooded, but this was because as a result of heavy rainfall. But this time there's no heavy rainfall, but the water from the lake continued to burst on the shores of the district, affecting these people, as I have told you. So ideally, we need your support. You can send your support or contribution or donation directly to the districts or through the kingdom. The office of the Prime Minister is in charge of mobilizing relief supply to the people of Bulisa district. So basically that's the situation in Bulisa district.
Well,
I'd like also to talk about a couple of things. Today, September the 27th, the Bunyoro Kingdom has joined the rest of the world to commemorate World Tourism Day, which has been celebrated throughout the world since 1980. The theme for this year's celebrations is tourism and rural development. And indeed, this is exactly what the kingdom is doing, developing the tourism in the Bunyoro Kingdom and the entire western region. As you might be aware, Bunyoro Kingdom is blessed with a lot of tourist attractions. This may not be the right time, the right moment to talk about them, but talk about Machizan Falls National Park. Talk about Budongo Forest, which is the biggest forest, the largest forest in Uganda and East African region. Talk about the lakes and water bodies, archaeological sites, historical sites, and many others. And at the point of what is important is that as a kingdom, we have come up with a 5-year strategic plan which, among others, looks at developing the tourism sector in the kingdom.
Okay.
One of the things that we'd like to achieve or to do is to establish a kingdom museum whereby we shall keep all our artifacts and the archaeological findings that exist in the kingdom. And as you might be aware, many of our artifacts are still in the United Kingdom, in such museums like Pitt's University Museum, and we'd like to recover these important historical artifacts and keep them in the Bunyoro Kingdom and use them for education purposes, attracting tourists, among others.
Okay, Kale Omutalindwa,
last but not least.
Yes, thank you so much. We will be talking about those artifacts and everything in our cultural tourism talk. Because our viewers are really interested in knowing the series of Omukama Kabaleega. They are all waiting for you to start this, and I'm sorry to cut you short, but I just want us, because we are going to lose time, to go back to the series of Omukama Kabaleega Chwa, if that's fine with you.
Thanks a lot, Ateng, but let's allow me at least talk about one thing. Last week, on Tuesday, September the 22nd, marked the 143rd anniversary of when Kabaleega met Amy Pastor. So this was an important date to mark in Bunyoro history, and maybe soon we shall be talking about it when we start looking at Kabaleega's interaction with the white men. Okay. And last but not least, next month, on October the 7th, to be specific, that's when Kabaleega landed in exile in the Seychelles. So we'd like also to mark this important event on the calendar of Bunyoro Kingdom. With that background, now I think allow me to go back to go to the issue at hand.
Yes.
This is the third series of Kabaleega,
yes.
Omukama Cwa to Kabaleega, the second. And today we're going to look at the reforms that were introduced by Omukama Cwa to Kabaleega. But before we look at the reforms, we would like to begin with talking about or giving a highlight of the nature of Bunyoro society. That's others call it pre-colonial society, but I want to call it the society of Bunyoro, the society in Bunyoro Kingdom that existed before Kabaleega came to power. And basically I'm going to look at 4 aspects: the political, the economic, the social, and the religious organization.
Mutuganyiremu Omutalindwa, because of network, I think keeps going off and on, but I'm sure he will be reconnecting with us. Nkobwabagambire today nayenda kuba nabaza nature of Bunyoro society before Omukama Kabaleega took power, and indeed he will be back with us.
They have lost connection.
Yes, he's back.
Okay, it's back now. So without much ado, politically, the Omukama was the head of Bunyoro society. He was an absolute ruler. He exercised absolute powers. He had the power and authority over all his subjects. He appointed all important chiefs and at the same time dismissed them if, as and when it was necessary. He held executive, judiciary, and legislative powers. His word was highly respected and almost equated to the word from God. So that's the type of political power that the king enjoyed. Secondly, socially, Bunyoro Kitara was organized into 3 classes. At the apex, or at the top of Bunyoro Kitara society, were the royal family or the rulers. These were the Babito during Kabaleega's period, but before that, we had the Batembuzi and the Bachwezi. So the highest class in Bunyoro society comprised the rulers, and here during Kabaleega's period, we are talking about the Babito. So in the middle class were the Bahuma. We may call them middle class or aristocrats. These were cattle keepers, and they were related to the Babito. They were more or less part of the ruling class, but for them, their preoccupation was rearing of cattle, which was the mainstay of Bunyoro society. And at the bottom of Bunyoro society were the Vairu. Vairu is, Bunyoro means peasants, slaves, serfs. So these were basically agriculturists. They were the majority of the society. They were the indigenous people, and they maintained the economy of the kingdom through agricultural produce and provision of labor to support the kingdom at various levels. And the Bunyoro society, indeed, the pillar of Bunyoro society were the clans. Society was organized according to clans. During Kabaleega's period, there were 72 clans, but as we talk right now, we have about 170 clans. So these clans had specific duties that they performed in society and in the kingdom.
Omutalindwa, before you proceed, you've just told us that during Kabaleega's time there were 72 clans. Now, how comes now we have 170 clans? How did they come up to be 170 when we originally had only 72? I would love, I'm sure our viewers would want an explanation of how these clans expanded, and from 72 zahika kuba kikumi na nsanju na ibiri.
Let's say 170. I see with time, clans evolved, and there were sects, which sects became clans, independent clans, because of one reason or another. For instance, differences in marriage, differences in totems. So, for instance, the Babito themselves have about 5 sects, and these may be regarded as different clans. Wow. Like the Bapanyarwa and the others, as we shall see. Okay. But the important thing to note is that at the time Kabaleega came to power, there were 73 clans, and that's as we shall see during the Recurato, which he formed as one of the political reforms. Each clan was represented in that parliament. That's why in Bunyoro, the Bunyoro parliament originally was referred to as Recurato Rwensanju na Babiri, the council of 72
clans. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yes. And so basically, politically, that was how Bunyoro Kitara was organized. Economically, the economy of Bunyoro Kitara depended on cattle. So cattle keeping the mainstay of Bunyoro state. Even when we talk of peasants, at least each peasant would have 1 or 2 or a few cows in their homesteads to ensure that they got the animal products such as milk, meat, goats, which they used as cloth, in addition to back cloth, among others.
So what happened to the cows? Because the cows seem to have gone with the Ankole side. When the kingdom divided, the Ankole people took the cows with them, because Bunyoro seems not to have a lot of cows nowadays. And when you talk about cows, straight away people think of Ankole. What happened to the Bunyoro cows?
It's a tragic story. When we come to the British invasion of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom, one of the things that they did was destroy our economy, and most of the cows were killed, allegedly deliberately, to destroy our economy, but mostly by cattle diseases such as Rinda pest and Nagana. But during the war, when the war broke out, as we have said, that the pastoralists, the middle class were pastoralists. They moved away, they ran away with their cows and they went to safer places as far as Busoga. In fact, right now we have just discovered a population of around 300,000 Bahuma who are Bunyoro living in Greater Busoga region. Others went to Kabaleega, that's in Eastern DRC. Others went to Kyaka, which had been given to Toro. Kyaka, that's present day Kenjojo, and Mwenge, and the Tuwebisengo in Intoroko, that's Busongora. So those people still regard themselves as Bunyoro. They are not Bahima, they are Bahuma. It is only in DR Congo where they are called Bahema. So it's a misconception to think that our cattle went to Ankole. Yes, maybe they did, but many were destroyed, yes. And the other pastoralists fled the kingdom to safer places, okay. And they want to come back.
All right, that's
yes.
Good to know.
So the second about cattle keeping as the mainstay of our economy, agriculture was very important because the majority of the people of the Vairu indulged in agriculture, basically growing finger millet and pulses, beans, peas, which they used for both domestic and the business or commercial purposes. There was also salt making. Bunyoro had two salt mines, important salt mines. Kibiro on Lake Mwitanzige, that's Lake Albert in Hoima district. And the second one was in southern Bunyoro on Lake Katwe, the Katwe salt mine, which was still part of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom until 1891, when Lugadi annexed it to Toro and part of it to Ankole and Uganda, as we shall see. Pottery, making of pots and clay products was an important aspect of our economy during this period. Also important was iron making and iron smelting. The Bunyoro had blacksmiths, expert blacksmiths. Unfortunately, these were the people who were first targeted by the British. Iron smelting was banned, and these blacksmiths, some of them lost their limbs and lives whenever they would be found indulging in iron smelting. But important areas where iron mining and smelting took place included Mwenge, Bulindi in Hoima, Biaga and Bugangaizi, among others. Another economic activity of Bunyoro Kitara was fishing, especially in the water bodies of Lake Mwitanzige, Lake George, Lake Albert. And most important of all, it is important to note that the water of these lakes in Bunyoro is saline. That means it contains salt. So it produces the best fish that you ever get in this region, including Engara, Engasa, Emputa, that's Nile Perch, and the Kisanja. And these later were introduced into other water bodies like Lake Victoria during, I think, the 1930s and 1940s. But still, there is a big difference. When you taste the fish from Lake Albert, you will know that this is different from the one from Lake Kyoga or Lake George. Yeah, because Lake George, Albert is not saline. Does not contain salt.
I have tasted the fish in Lake Albert. You're definitely right. It tastes very nice, tasty. Especially,
and I'd like to encourage you to taste the most delicious fish we have is Engara. Which is like salmon in the western hemisphere, but it is really nice. Talking of the economy of Bunyoro Kitara, Bunyoro indulged in trade, especially long distance trade, whereby Bunyoro sold their products with the Arabs and Karatumas, and during Kabaleega's time, this trade came to be centralized and was controlled by the king, as we shall see later during his reforms. But however, we also traded locally with our neighbors like the Baganda, Basoga, West Nile, the Kabaleega, and Karagwe in northern Tanzania. There is also back cloth making, that's making of cloth from the mutoma tree, that's the banyan tree, and the main type of cloth in Bunyoro and the Great Lakes region was basically from buck cloth, and secondly from animal skins and hides.
Wow.
And they were also hunting as an economic activity, basically to provide food and the products for trade, especially rhinoceros horns and the ivory from elephants. Last but not least, Bunyoro had tributary states or vassals or tributary states which paid tributary to Bunyoro. I'll be talking about them later, but these included Teso, Busoga, Acholi, West Nile, and Bulega, not to mention Rwanda.
Wow. So
that was the economic organization of Bunyoro Kitara during this period. Religiously, Bunyoro Kitara, the Banyoro believed in a supreme being called Ruhanga, which translates into God, who was believed to be the creator of all things. And Ruhanga had no temple or priest, nor could he be asked for assistance. It was considered that he had done his work, that's of creation, and therefore he deserved uninterrupted rest.
Wow.
When God has created you and given you everything, you don't ask for anything because he has already done his work. Give him rest uninterruptedly. However, apart from Ruhanga, there were other smaller gods which the Banyoro believed in. Each clan and family had its own favorite god. Sacrifices were always made to appease them. They also had national gods like Wamara, who was the god of plenty, Mugizi, who was the god of Lake Muitanzige, that's Lake Albert, Muhingo, who was the god of war, just to mention a few. These could be appealed to in case of any problem, and offerings would be made to appease them.
Yes.
And at this point, I would like to point out that Bunyoro was an intensely religious society, and we had the national prayer.
Amazing. So
the
it's
prayer
not a
of
white
Bunyoro
man
Kitara
who brought
kingdom.
us. It was not
And
a white
I would like at this point to lead our audience in this prayer. Let's dedicate ourselves to God in the Kinyoro way. I'll read it in Bunyoro. I don't know if you will be responding, but this prayer will be recorded and translated into English. Here we go. Ai nyamuhango wiguru lyera atuha akasana akotu abaindi ayahangira iguru n'ensi ebitagira nyomyo ayahangira abantu n'ebisoro ebinyonyi n'ebihuka ensozi n'ebimera ebisaro hamwe n'enyanja. Nyamuhanga omularamirwa omutegero w'engaro nitasarwa nitukusiima habwa byona ebirungo otuha omusana n'enjura ebyokulya hamu n'oruzaaro ayi kagaba rugabira boona otugabire itungo nyabahangwa kazoba kahangi nitukusaba otukuliza abaana baitu n'entege igorokokere ayirukira boona nitukusaba ohungukire kabohaboha yabali mwoyo kandi ohijike emihingo omu businde bw'ebidandi n'ebijambuuka ebigasayigasa amagege n'ebinyamangagana orufu n'endwara amahembe hamu n'ebifwaro otukingirize ekihe kyenjara omuyaga ihunga emisisa n'enyamaishwa ly'abantu ayi Ruhango w'eriiso likooto nitukusaba otusenseho emigisa yawe kandi otuho obwomezi nuko tuomere nkoburo enkole bikurwa bitwena tugaruka mu tugamba nikikahabuke. Amen.
Amen. Ekikahabuke obanyoro n'abanyoro kati nikyo amina.
Amen. Mwebale muno. Ege niyo esara That is the prayer, the national prayer of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. As you will see, there was nothing evil on this prayer. It prayed for good life, good health, longevity, productivity, protection from all sources of
health of the children,
forces like natural calamities, witchcraft, and what have you, deformities, giants, and those legendary animals like ogres, gnomes, and the other aspects. And it ends by appealing to God to protect us from famine, drought, floods, hurricanes, etc., and to give us long life to exist or to prolong our life like millet grain, which does not, which cannot go bad, like some type of peas in Kore. And then we end by saying Amina in Runyoro, which is Nikikahabuke. So basically, you can.
Mutalindwa banzoleke ngwenda kwegesa abanyoro olunyoro okikahabuke means amina. Lero nanyowe lwakasaija nkwegeseza olunyoro kiro kinu kikahabuke obairo takimanyiro ikala no gamba mbazo olunyoro lutahikire nanyo lero nkwegeseza yakagambo. Otyo muno Omutalindwa continuing na administration, is it? The reforms of Omukama Kabaleega. Then nitujja kuba nitugenda ha break though hakuhumuramu.
Thanks a lot, Ateni, the producer,
yes,
moderator, and basically that's where this is the type of the nature of Bunyoro society that Kabaleega inherited when he came to power in 1870. So immediately he came to power, he started initiating reforms, and these reforms were implemented in only 28 years, because Kabaleega ruled from 1870 up to 1898 when he was deposed by the British. So he had only 28 years to do what we are going to see from now until his capture and immediately after his capture. So that's why I always say that Kabaleega was a phenomenon. He was not only revolutionary, but he was a unique individual. That's why we regard him as our hero.
Yes.
When he came to power, he started by consolidating his power. When he ascended the throne, he started by consolidating his power. He centralized all power because he had realized the mistakes, the weaknesses that had been created by, not his father, by the way, his father was a strong king, by his predecessors, his grandfather and great-grandfather. His grandfather was Olimi, and his great-grandfather was Nyamutukura, who was the father of Kavoyo, who succeeded to form Toro Kingdom in 1830. So this is 40 years after Toro had succeeded when Kabaleega came to power. And as we saw that during his training and education, he was taught the history of the Bunyoro Kitara, the culture and everything. So he was aware about the weaknesses and strengths of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. So that's why he started from organizing and consolidating his power, and whereby he made all, he appointed all the chiefs, and all the chiefs were answerable to him. He delegated authority, which was given precedence over inherited status. This business of that, my father was a chief and I'm going to be a chief, I'm a Movito, so I have to rule, it came to an end.
Amazing.
You have to be appointed by Kabaleega and you have to be answerable to him, and you have to rule or perform according to his expectation. And accordingly, he appointed many commoners as chiefs, and he gave them authority to discipline any destructive ambitions of the royal clan. Secondly, as you might be aware, previously aristocrats, pastoralists, and princesses who were rulers of distant areas regarded themselves as autonomous or independent or feudal lords. Kabaleega put to an end this challenge to his central authority.
Amazing. How many officials did he have?
Kabaleega had very many officials. But however, allow me to talk about only 15.
Okay.
Not in the mainstream administration, but 15. There were 15 important people or persons in Kabaleega's administration. These were: 1, the Kabonera of Buligira. This man was the leader of all royal processions. I'm just summarizing. The second one was Oyo Zigome Ruaro. This one initiated the actions of the king at feasts, beating his drum with reeds instead of drumsticks. The third important person was the Mugema of Buchubya. By virtue of his office, the Mugema took precedence of all chiefs who wore crowns, though he had no authority or judicial power over them and was not able to settle any lawsuit among them, for in such a case they had to appear before the king. This man belonged to the Babopi section of the Ngabi or royal clan, and the office went in rotation to each of the 3 divisions of that section. That is the Mugema, the Zigija, and Kisoija. These 3 men wore crowns even when not in office and were subordinate to one who was in office. The fourth important man in Kabaleega's administration was the Bamroga of Kijagaras. The Bamroga had to provide the special gate for the kraal of the Enkoroto. Enkoroto, those are the sacred herds of cows, which the cows which stay in the palace, which the king used to get milk and animal products from at ease. And this man was in command of all gatekeepers of the royal enclosure. The next important man was Kasumba of Bugahya, that's in Hoima. This man claimed to be a prince and to have come with the first king into the country. He also declared that he had the right to use an ivory door seal, like the tusk that lay before the doorway into the king's throne room. Next was Kanagwa of Vugungu. Kanagwa of Vugungu was the keeper of an axe called Kiriramiro, which was used for killing people. In other words, this man Kanagwa was the chief executioner in the kingdom. Any rebels, any person who had been condemned to death would be taken and be executed by this man using this.
We just need to catch up with time. I may have to go off for a short break.
Those are 7. Maybe I could stop at the 8th.
Yes.
Who was Muhaima of Kahima in Mugangaizi. He was the keeper of the drums. He belonged to the Bayaga clan.
Yes.
Can I go on?
I think we just have, we could go on. And
we have Wogi of Mugangaizi, who was the keeper of the Njagu, or that's the royal clothing. All the clothes of the king were kept by this man called Wogi from Mugangaizi. Then there was Kagoro of Ekibijo. Kagoro provided a girl who had to be in constant attendance to the king. Then there was Muguta of Kyaka, who was said to have control over the lands in the country. Each year, the king presented him with 2 cows, and he in return prevented lions from killing people and cattle. Women presented him with butter to smear on the lion in order to keep them from attacking people. That's why it was quite surprising that lions in the Bunyoro Kingdom, traditional Bunyoro Kingdom, animals like lions and leopards used to coexist with people without killing them. This was partly because of the powers of this man, Muguta of Kiaka. Then there was Batalima of Kichwera. This one was responsible for the 2 horns of medicated water, which he brought daily and anointed with the king's head and skin. And then there was Kagwire of Kijingo, who was the prince, who was the priest of River Hira. Hira is the Bunyoro name for River Nile. So this man was the priest of this river, River Nile, and the waters of all the entire water in the Bunyoro Kingdom. Like now, this problem of Bulisa, he would be sent there, or he'd perform his powers or whatever he had to do, and then the water would be appeased or calm. Then there was the Nyaika of Pakanyi, that's in Masindi. This one was in charge of the royal bugle, which was blown, which would be played on important occasions, and he announced the musicians when the royal band should start playing. That was his important role, keeping the royal bugle and playing it at such important functions. Then there was Munyaru Gabungu of Kiyonga, who was a medicine man who prevented lightning from striking the royal households. It was believed that there could be an eventuality whereby lightning in Cuba could strike royal households, but this man was there to prevent it. And then he was the maker of a special crown, that crown which the king wore. And then there was Katongole of Vurwa. He was the royal medicine man, the physician of the Kabaleega, the doctor, the expert doctor who would treat the king. That was Katongole of Vurwa. Then there was Kadoma, that's the last, who was the chief herdsman of the sacred Kadoma, fool. He was the chief herdsman of the sacred goats. Yes. Once upon a time, he stole a goat from the king and ate it. This was an offense, but instead of being put to death, he was made to wear a bell around his neck and ring it before the king at stated times. This came to be regarded as a sign of chieftainship, and his descendants had been chiefs ever since. So those were some of the important officials in Kabaleega's reign. They may seem unimportant or non-entities, but they performed important function. So you can see that much as Kabaleega was an absolute king, he depended. His success was dependent on teamwork, including these 15 men.
Webale muno Omutalindwa kutugambira aba bantu 15 the officials of Omukama Kabaleega. I just want to appreciate our viewers, and probably we may not have time to go off the break after Kumura this time round of Turamara Mazire appreciating our viewers. You can talk about a little bit about Omukama's administration system. Webale muno, thank you Samuel Kitone for tuning in and appreciating all our viewers. Voice of Bunyoro, Daisy Biaruhanga, thank you. Daisy is trying to tell us is registering children to learn Runyoro virtually. So please get in touch with Daisy if you want your child in the UK or across the globe, because at Tulom COVID, anyone everywhere can learn Runyoro. I don't know habwaki Samu akusima omukuru birija baitu nawe ngugo bamusimire. Annette Kabanyoro, thank you for tuning in. Maureen Kunihira, Maureen, thank you so much for giving me that wonderful song, sending me that wonderful song on the Diaspora forum. It has really fit into our program today. Kandi otusimire muno ize kuzina ekzina eksemire kityo hali Omukama waitu Kabaleega. Ninyenda kuongera Jole Masebe Rukambuzi. How about the ones in Tanzania? I don't know what Jole is asking about, but we will soon come to know. Omutalindwa ajja kugenda hachati arole ebikaguzo bino byona ebimumuhabuize then asobole kuba nabigarukamu. Kugonza Kasaija, opportunities on the 27th of September. International Leader of Tomorrow, Akuba Gambira, Nywena Mugende, International Leaders of Tomorrow for scholarships. Mwesigwa Patrick, thank you so much for tuning in. Akusima muno Omutalindwa, Mwesigwa Patrick akusima webale kubegesa ebintu Kabaleega ebiyakozere. Era Maureen kunihira era nuwe nawe webale muno byone byokusima. Marvin Mutegeka Amoti Omuzira webale muno kutuninga in Marvin Omuzira na nyomba Muzira kati. Webale muno Chala Moti following Robert Akiiki, your present I can see. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hadija Kisembo, our ex-chairperson, thank you so much. Webale muno yesterday kumaliriza GM ya Bunyoro Development Association actually sponsoring a program egyo. Webale muno mulimo gwo gwokozerege nabo bona abayizire ababaire elected, congratulations. Kugonza Akiiki akubaza convention yaitu eya Bunyoro Kitara egenda kuba yomwaka ogukwija omu Washington DC. Inywena mugende ha website ya Bunyoro Kitara International US murole ebikweyongerayo omaiso. Stephen Atuoki as ever, thank you so much Omutalindwa bakusima. Thank you so much. We highly appreciate your talks and effort you put in to prepare them. Many thanks to all the organizers behind the screen, of course, our star Atenyi. Webale munatoki kusima noku hangiriza omukama waitu wa Bunyoro. Tinja kuhangiriza bakaba gamba Banyoro ti abakazi tibakikora. Komugisha Franklin, thank you for tuning in. All of you Atenyi Alice at Gonza webale nayo kutuninga ini Francis. Who is Francis? Francis Nyakojo, a new name. I have never seen you. Kionka nibyebyo inywena mwebale muno kutuninga ini no kufollowinga Omutalindwa nitugenda straight on tugenda hakumura mwabo kubo bwire butukwasire. But I just want you to talk about the administration system as Omukama Kabaleega, and then we'll probably Omukuru engineer White atuongeiremu 15 minutes, so we should be able to cover quite a lot within 15 minutes, and then we will be calling it a day. Hati Omutalindwa administration system y'Omukama Cwa ekabeta.
As we have already seen, or I have already said, Kabaleega centralized power. He set up a hierarchical administration which had 5 levels. At the top were this Masaza. Masaza, that is county. So the county chiefs were at the top of the were next to the king in terms of administration. Below the Masaza, there was the Batongole, or rather the Bagomboros. Those were the sub-county chiefs, Abamagombora or Abagomboros. And below the sub-county chief were the parish chiefs, Abemiruka. And below the Abemiruka, each village had a chief called Omutongole. So Abatongole, that's plural of Omutongole, were responsible for the administration of villages. And at the grassroots, the local unit, the local village, the subsection of a unit of a village, which was called Omugongo. You could say from the other highland to the other, or from this chief is village like Birungu or Udwoli. So each village had Omukuru Omugongo, or plural Abakuru Omugongo. So that was the hierarchy of administration in the kingdom, which Kabaleega introduced when he consolidated his power. So he appointed chiefs at 5 levels. The Mukuru Omugongo, that's from the bottom, Omutongole, the Muruka chief, the Wigombora, and the Wisaza. But my focus is going to be on the Masaza. Kabaleega divided Bunyoro Kitara into 28 counties.
Wow.
I'm just going to run through them. These were Ugahia, which was under Nyakamatura, Wanyakatura, who belonged to the Mamori clan. That's Mugaya, that's Hoima district basically. There was Busindi, that's in Masindi, which was ruled by Vikamba Rwakabale of the Barans clan. There was Bugungu, where the floods have just taken place in Bulisa, Bugungu was under Mwanga Wakanagwa of the Bachua clan. There was Kihukia Chope. Kihukia is one of the counties, no longer county, which was the British turned it into the national park, Machizon Falls National Park. But before that, it was a county, full county, Kihukia, which was under Katongole, Rwarukidi of the Bachua clan. Kibanda, again, that's in Kiriandong in Masindi. This county was under Masura Rwa Matera of the Bayanza clan. There was Bunyara, that's in Nakasongola, around Nakasongola there. This county was under Mutenga Rwa Ikamba of the Babito clan. There was Bururi, again in Nakasongola, which was ruled by Kadiebo Rwa Bantaba of Wagonya clan. There was Rugonjo Kalimbi. This is present day Kiankwanzi district, to the best of my knowledge. It was under Mutengesa Olaro of the Babito clan. There was Ugangaizi under Kikukule Warunego of the Bairuntu clan. There was Buyaga, which was under Rusever wa Rukumba of the Babito clan. There was Nakavimba, under Kator wa Zigija of the Babot clan. There was Kiaka, which was under Ntamara wa Nyakabwa of the Bayonza clan. There was Mwenge, which was under Mugara wa Kawijamu of the Bayonza clan. There was Toro, which was under Rubugwa wa Mirindi of the Bayonza clan. There was Kitagwenda, under Bulemu wa Rwigi of the Babito clan. Busongora, which was under Rukara wa Magigi of the Barans clan. Buzimba, that's under Nduru wa Nyakairu of the Balisa clan. Buhweju, which is now currently a part of Wankole, under Ndagara wa Rumanyueka of the Bahinda clan. Buamba, which was under Rukara wa Itegiraha of the Bachua clan. There were also Makara, which is Usongora, which was under Kangavire Rwakajura of the Balisa clan. There was Imboga, that's in the present day DR Congo, which was under Ileter wa Byangombe of the Basaigi clan. Bulega, again in DR, currently in DR Congo, which was under Muliwandwa of Wogati of the Babiasi clan, that's my clan. There was Gani, that's Acholi, which was under Awichi Rochamo of the Babito clan. There was Bukidi Lango, where the Babito came from. This one, Kabaleega did not appoint any chief to rule under this county. This was a special county, and it was ruled directly by him. It was his personal property, and because of the reason that this is where their grandparents, their ancestors came from. So he couldn't demean those people by appointing a chief over them. There was Kamuri Budiope, that's in Busoga. This was under Nyaikar Waigabura of the Babito clan. There was a rule, or Madi, that's in West Nile, which was under Anziri Wamidiri of the Babito clan. There was Teso, Kawero, which was under Kamkokoma, Wakatenyi of Bahinda clan. There was Bunya, that's in present day DR Congo, which was under Jumba Wasalal of the Kabaleega clan. Amazing. So those were the 28 counties in the Bunyoro Kingdom as during Kabaleega's reign. That's how we arranged it. It is important to note that there were some vessel or tributary states. Yes. Some of them which were part of these counties, but allow me to point them out, at least 5. Yes. Tesokaweri, this was a special tributary state, and it had an important market. And Kabaleega appointed the market master called Kamkoko Makateni, whose role was to gather revenues, dues from this market. And the people, when we are talking of long distance trade, people moved from all over the kingdom. My grandfather, Singoma Yanyaboma, was a long distance trader who dealt in market from Kibiro all the way to this market. Another important vassal state was Busoga, Kamuli, and Budiope. Those are in the east. There was also Lango, as I have already talked about this. This was a special territory for Kabaleega and did not appoint any special chief for it. However, there were minor chiefs whom he pretended, such as Ibrahim Olum. There was Gani, Acholi. This was also an important state, tributary state, where Kabaleega appointed the Wat, who was the main chief resident in Kitugum. Now, he was also very important there. Madi, Atiak, Palango, that's the West Nile region, and the Aru, Bukonjo, all these were important tributary states.
Amazing. Wow. Omutalindwa na kiasera ebintu ebindi ebyabalina inda kutugambiraho. Ninyenda again to go back to our viewers for Francis Nyakojo, indeed a great kingdom. It was a great kingdom. Omutalindwa nko bwatugambire all the administration reforms, all the SAZAs that we have had, 28 of them, and he has given who was leading them. It's amazing. You guys need to go back and listen to all these 28 and all the things that we have discussed today. Our program is recorded so that you get to learn everything that Omutalindwa has said. Kugonza Ronald, watching from Cape Town, South Africa. Webale munoku to joining our Cape Town, South Africa. This is your first time. We are very glad to have you on the show as well. Webale chali kusima aba South Africa batulamukize. Hato Omutalindwa, engineer tuongere tusigaze obudakika msanju okusobola kutugambiraho administration structure briefly, then we will maybe wind up and just go straight off the line after that. Just briefly.
Thanks a lot. Talking of the administrative structure, the current administrative structure which we had was established by Kabaleega, and this is how it was. At the top of the administrative structure, he created the office of Omukama. That's the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, Omukama, was the head of the civil service during Kabaleega's reign. However, this office was not new. That title had been during his Kabaleega, during his father's reign, so during the reign of Omukama Cwa. In 1887, Kabaleega appointed Nyakatura as Prime Minister, owing to his political competence and military prowess. Nyakatura was a former slave. He had been a commoner, a muiru, among Omukama Cwa's county chiefs. And Cwa had appointed his prime minister called Kategora. When Kabaleega came to power, he retained Kategora as Omukama or prime minister for 16 years of his reign before he was poisoned. So Kategora was poisoned after 16 years, and that's when Kabaleega appointed his successor, Nyakatura. After the Omukama, that's one office of the administrative structure. The next aspect of the administrative structure was the Rukurato, that's the parliament, which I currently head as the Omutalindwa. And that parliament was headed by the Omutalindwa. Currently, I'm the one, and it had representatives from all the 72 clans. That's why it was called Orukurato Wensambe na Babiri. In addition, the Omukama appointed crown wearers. People, crown wearers, important people who were awarded with the privilege of wearing crown because of their merit. So the 72 were crown wearers from the various 72 clans. Those were called the Bajuwarakondo. They were appointed by virtue of the excellent services. Next was the Royal Council. This is the council which advises the king on important aspects.
The Royal Council, yeah.
The Royal Council, yes. And it stayed in the royal enclosure that's in the Karuzika or the palace. And these chiefs were hereditary. These officers were hereditary in nature. For instance, if I have been a member of the Royal Council and a person, my son would also be appointed to that Royal Council. But on the value of merit. Below the royal, not below, another aspect of the administrative structure was the two offices of Okwiri and the Vateri. The Okwiri was the official brother of the king. The king belonged to the clan, the Wavito, but he was not tasked with matters of the royal family, rather the royal clan, because he had state duties to perform. He had important roles to play as king. So for the royal clan, for the Wavito clan, it was agreed that two people be appointed, one to take care of the princesses, that's the male, that was the Okwiri, and the other one was the Kariota or Vatebe to take care of the princesses. So the Vatebe was the official sister of the king, while the Okwiri was the official brother of the king, but their role was to handle issues of the royal clan.
Amazing.
It is important to note that the Vatebe was originally called Kariota, and at times Ruhuga. She was forbidden to marry or bear children, protecting the king against challenges from her offspring. Her duties included instructing members of the reformed etiquette. She also served as a counselor to the king's subjects on cultural norms, including marriage. During Kabaleega's reign, the Vatebe was a kind of chief. She held and administered estates, from which she derived revenue and services like other chiefs. She settled the disputes, determined inheritance cases, and decided matters of precedence during the Wavito women. Among the Wavito women, those are the princesses. The Kariota had a counterpart in the Okwiri, who was the king's official brother, who was the head of the Wavito, the ruling clan among the Bunyoro men. The Okwiri was and still is effectively head of the Wavito or Owek clan. In Uganda, he's called Sabalangira, and in Toro, he's called the Omusuga. The Okwiri was a brother of the former king, and he assisted the new king in governing the kingdom, who now served all subjects in the kingdom, the Wavito and non-Wavito alike. During the enthronement of the new king, the Okwiri, among others, pretended a mock battle at the palace entrance, fought between the enemy forces of the rebel prince and the royal army. At the testing of the king's divine right to the throne, he called on the gods to strike the monarch if he is not of royal blood. On passing the test, the king was permitted to summon the second one. His forefather had done. This was then blessed with the blood of the slaughtered bull and the white head. This is what was happening when Kabaleega ascended the throne, and even after that. There was also an important office, that is the Omukama, the queen mother, the mother of the king. In Kabaleega's reign, in Kabaleega's time, that was Kanyange Omutalindwa Awol. The queen mother was revered by everyone, including Kabaleega himself. If the queen mother said no, nothing would happen. So in the entire kingdom, Kabaleega revered was his mother. The others just respected them, the queen, the Vatebe, the Vikiru, and whatever, because they appointed them. So basically, that's the administrative structure of the kingdom, and I think if time allowed, we'll go to military reforms, but this is an important aspect. Maybe we can look at it
Yes, thank you, Omutalindwa. Webale muno chali otusomeseze history eno. I think our viewers have really appreciated. Kandi omalirize no gamba Omukama Kabaleega Cwa ya respectingaga kandi yatinaga o Queen Mother. When the Queen Mother said anything or said no to anything, Omukama Cwa Kabaleega tiyakikoraga. So he had the respect for women. Webale muno Omutalindwa olukurato lwa Bunyoro kutwegesa history egyo abantu bakusiima hanu tinja kubaza amabala bwokuba obwire butulabiroho kyonka nkusaba Akiiki kino nkwenda ogende ogaruka mu chat yaitu Akiiki owekitinisa Omutalindwa ogarukemu abantu ababaire baina ebikaguzo ebakwenda kukaguza specifically about what you have taught us today osobole kubigarukamu nabo basobole kumanya ekibaire nikigenda abandi baizireleti kyonko obujja kuba no bagarukamu ebintu ebyo ebakwenda kumanya webale muno Akiiki obwire butulabiroho ninyenda ku just to remind our viewers that all our past shows I have seen Kugonza Ronald asking about the shows of Voice of Bunyoro. If you have missed, I know I can see you have just joined us and you're asking when and how do we do this and that. Please go on our website, Bunyoro Kitara Development Association UK. We have all our recorded shows there and you can play and listen, and if you want you can also go to TGM Facebook. We also have them recorded on there. Abanyoro n'abanyoro kati obwire butukwasire nitukuba ntugenda kuya Omutalindwa. Just a closing mark, just ombugambo bubiri bwonka closing mark, and then we go off the air.
Tugaruke musabe sare ya Bunyoro Kitara kandi abantu nkwetaga esare ne bagikwate kandi bagikolese hamkoro dusamu bintu bya sane byona sa Bunyoro kabatundu bere bantu banyadini kandi msaba ruhanga kasabe tuti
Omutalindwa tumalirize banzo lindo Omutalindwa akusaba itwena abanyoro n'abanyoro kati tumalirize ne Sara ya Sara yaito ituabaire twina omubwiro obwo eyatwegeseze deni. We will be going off air. Otyo muno Omutalindwa tusabise tusobole kugenda.
This is the national prayer of Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom during Kabaleega time. Here it goes in Bunyoro. Aya muhango wiguru lyera atwaka sana ayahange kundesi ekagira nyomino ayahange abantu n'ebisoro ebinyoni n'ebihuka ensozi n'ebimera ebisaro hamwe n'enyanja nyamuhanga omuraramirwa omutegerwa engaro nitasarwa nitukusima hawa byone ebirungo tuha omusana n'enjura ebyokuli hamwe n'oruzaabo ayi kagabaruga birabona otugabire itungo nyabahangwa kasoba kahandi nitukusaba otukuliza abana bayitu n'entege igorokokere ayirukira bona nitukusaba ohungukire kabuhabuha yabalimoyo kandi ohigike emihingo omubusinde bw'ebidande n'ebijambo egasa amagege nyamangagana orufune ndwara amahembe hamwe n'ifaro okumalira okukiriza ekiye kiyejara omuyaga ihunga emisisa twongero na maizi agabogere bulisa n'inyama ishokali y'abantu ayiruhango weriso likoto nitukusaba otusensebe endisa yawe kandi otuho bwomezi niko tumere nkoburo enkole ikurwa bitwena tugarukemu amina yo mu Bunyoro nikikahabuke
nkikahabuke amina mwebale muno egyo Sara ekilozingire show yaitu nitugenda kugenda off air ninyenda kubayijukizamu kake nti show yaitu ene buli kya sabit every Sunday at 7 sharp 7 p.m. UK time. We are on live, and please do follow us on TGM Facebook Live and go on all the TGM apps, and then also go to Bunyoro Development Association website for all our recorded shows. Nitugenda hati kugenda mwebale muno kutufollowinga kandi today mutuganyire tutubaire mu kazina ka kabiro akuhumura kionka habwokuba Omutalindwa bayina twegesa history ya mani muno mutyo muno abanyoro n'abanyoro kati and friends of Bunyoro, thank you for tuning in. This remains era kali ya Bunyoro Diaspora nilibaleterwa or it's sponsored by Bunyoro Development Association UK. Mukama balinde nimbagondeza a very good week ahead of you. Bye for now. Bye.
Mwebale muno kuija kuhuliriza Diaspora on TGM Radio.
Omukama Kabaleega ngarukire nakanaka yaka abanyoro byaitu babituhe member number 1 Majoyas Rodriguez behind the thing abanyoro twina kulekeraho kuleka engoma abandi nibatera Majoyas Bunyoro bati muke turwanire byaitu byaitu batwara mutwara byaitu batika butika nakataito ni batwimale kati muke turwanire byaitu batwara mutwara ebetu batika butika nakataito ni batwima kodi kabumbo liyewe mukikali angirisa kutamba ikuru Solomon Omukama waitu owa Bunyoro ukuru soranganyira nyizire ndabijwaire nyo wabanyoro batumire ninyewe isebyo musomesa asomesa abesi nebyensimbo muzigiri bamwichukuru wakwesa byamire kule ifokisiga hali muhoima embogo zirukunyirira amasindirizo zinzara zikanguza kabumba bambeleke byaitu Bunyoro babituhe naitwe tukaikahale baikara kutusubisa byoya byankokodora nesijya titukiroraho kimwitwe twikara mu mpapuro z'amahura amarediyo n'amativi tibunyoro mu Uganda niye kusinga by'obugayikaniyo nambemo amazima tusinga tutambye mugayika obunakune mututoka ng'obugeme isukali ya kinyara butuba nitukikura tusasura kimu n'abalandani gendaho mukatale oramuzengege kuruka mwitansigwe oragambira kuli kwini wabungiriza akatwige byaitu n'abaitu yabatwitira babituhe ebyaitu muke turwanire byaitu ebyaitu batwara mutwara ebyaitu batika butika nakataito ni batwimale kati muke turwanire byaitu ebyaitu batwara mutwara ebyaitu batika butika nakataito ni batwima producer Davis kokone ngoma abanyoro itwe turunde Bajoyas sikube ebyaitu babituhe akuna mana ngoma ketatwara abanyoro mwimuke byaitu byo babituhe university zo kaitanu engudo nungezo zombekwe amarwara marungi kombekwe amasomero lekabo basome akuna mana ngoma ketatwara abanyoro mwimuke byaitu byo babituhe university zo kaitanu basituhe abana bo basome engudo nungezo zombekwe amarwara kombekwe bajajabwe aina mana ngoma ketatwara abanyoro mwimuke byaitu
Mwebale muno kuija kuhuliriza iraka lya Bunyoro kuruga mu Diaspora on TGM Radio. Mwebale muno